an honor and privilege to invite now to the microphone our facilitator for that topic, that's administration of staff and students' discipline towards greater productivity in these times in the universities. Welcome, Barrister P.O. Fasuon, the Director of Legal Services, Federal University of Technology, Akure.
I want to state that I am more than delighted to be here to participate in this, I will say, May occasion, not August occasion, because this is May. And I have to thank the registrar for deeming it fit to let me be part of this. And I also greet Mrs. Oje, who is standing in for him. And the co-participants, because I'm participating too, you are all welcome. And I'm going to take us through. I will lecture. At the same time, I will make submissions. You know, lawyers make submissions. So by the time I finish, you may agree with me or disagree with me. But that will depend on the position of the law, the procedure, and the extant provision of the law. I just consider it necessary that we must know what is administration. You must have heard a lot of things about administration. And it is not too much when you know something from my own perspective too. So what is administration? Administration is the range of activities connected with organizing and supervising the way an organization or institution functions. The definition of administration refers to the group of individuals who are in charge of creating and enforcing rules and regulations, or those in leadership positions who complete important tasks. So we can see that rules and regulations are involved. So when you talk about administration, that is why I deem it necessary to bring in that, since we are going to talk about rules and regulations. Then according to Simon, administration can be defined as the activities of groups cooperating to accomplish common goals. Cooperating to accomplish common goals. So this institution is actually established to carry out some activities by groups to achieve or to accomplish common goals. As can be seen, administration is defined as cooperative human action or cooperative group behavior. The word cooperative is the first key. It's the first key element in this definition. Human activity is cooperative if it has the effect that will be absent if the cooperation did not take place. The second key element of the above definition is the goal or purpose. The idea of a goal is central to the concept of administration in the sense that if there was not a goal, the members of the group will not come together and cooperate with each other. That is, if there is not a goal, we can't come together in this institution. When you bring together a number of individuals at a certain location, the first thing they will ask is why they have been brought together, what the objective of the group is. Without the formulation of an objective or goal, vision or mission, no one within the group will know what to do and they will not get involved in any activity. When someone determines the objective and the group is informed about that, then the group members will start to think about what they can do for the accomplishment of that vision or mission. And they will start to cooperate with each other. As can be seen easily, without a specific objective or goal, it is impossible to get people to cooperate with each other. In that sense, the concept of goal is the second key element of the concept of administration. In another definition, administration is defined as an activity or process mainly concerned with the means for carrying out prescribed ends. That is FIFA and Prestos. In this definition, the concept of goal accomplishment again plays an important role. As the definition clearly indicates, administration is mainly concerned with the means that are necessary for the accomplishment of predetermined goals. In this, it seems that a new element is introduced, that is the concept of means. The means is the way by which something is done or obtained. When a group of individuals are working for the accomplishment of a common goal, a division of labor is necessary so that each individual will know what to do. or there is the need for an authority structure to control and coordinate the activities of the individuals involved. What is organization? According to one of the prominent scholars, organizations are social units or human groupings deliberately constructed and reconstructed to seek specific goals. That when you construct, then you reconstruct. That when you look at the vision and mission and it is not being achieved, then you now reconstruct. In this definition, organizations are seen as social units or human groupings, which implies that the basic elements of organizations are individuals. The first key element of this definition is the fact that organizations are groupings of individuals. Another basic element is deliberate construction. That is, organizations are deliberately constructed for accomplishing specific objectives. The third element is, of course, the concept of goals. Organizations are established for the accomplishment of certain goals. In another definition, organizations are defined as collectivities that have been established for the pursuit of relatively specific objectives on a more or less continuous basis. Let me just say. Then organization and administration. The concepts of administration and organization are closely related to each other. In a sense, the objective of both organization and administration is the control of human and other resources in the accomplishment of predetermined objectives. Organization and administration exist together and they are not separable. If organization is regarded as structure, then administration becomes a process. That if we have structure, then administration is the process. It can be argued that if organization is concerned with the former aspect of administration, administration is a directing process carried on within the organizational setting. Then university environment and the enabling laws and regulations vis-a-vis its mission and vision. The university is most certainly a beehive of activities. These include academic, that is teaching and research, administrative and allied activities, which altogether culminate into a university's graduate and research output. At the center of these activities are humans, that is experts of all sorts, who constitute the workforce. An excellent and legitimate performance of these activities by each member of the workforce requires that the university's do's and don'ts, as well as the various terms and conditions governing each employee's appointment, be put together in form of a document and circulated for conformity and ease of reference. This area now have, this one is lifted from Elizabeth University's handbook. And it is very, very good for each university to adopt it. I'm going to read it out. It is for this purpose that this document, the conditions of service governing all employees of Elizabeth University, Laramokin, is produced so that all the employees of the university, teaching and non-teaching, can possess and acquaint themselves with all details pertaining to their services in the university. It forms the basis upon which university's working culture will be formed and disciplinary measures enforced. In this spirit, a copy of this publication shall be included in the welcome package for all the new staff of the university for comprehensive reading and understanding before full assumption of duties. The document referred to above is called regulation. I want to throw light on that one. You know that usually when somebody resumes, if he's given an appointment, he will just go and resume. He may not even have access to the regulations at that point in time. And for several months, he may not even have access to it. But with this kind of presentation, they have already put it there that it is for that worker to have it even before resuming. Before assumption of duty, you have it already, then you read it. But in most cases, that it is not the case. It is when you resume that you now know that there is what they call regulation. But their own, that is what they wrote in their own condition of service. Then, what is regulation? Regulation is a rule or directive made and maintained by an authority. Then we look at definitions. Who is a staff? In the conditions of service of most universities, staff is defined as follows. Academic staff means an employee in any academic department or academic support unit of the university who is engaged in teaching, research, and community service. Administrative staff means an employee of the university other than an academic staff or professional staff who carries out administrative duties. Then technical staff means all the employees of the university who engage in technical duties. It may vary from one university to another, but that is the basic. Then the publication of this regulation becomes imperative. I'm still talking about the regulation. In order to have well-enlightened human resource in the system, since the university system by its very nature is rule-governed, it is necessary to make these rules and regulations available to everyone so that there will be due compliance and guide to affected staff and fairness across the various segments of the several integrated components and stakeholders of the system. The Federal University of Technology, Akure, had reviewed regulations governing the conditions of service of both junior and senior staff for the purpose of this lecture. I will concentrate on the reviewed regulations concerning governing the condition of service of employees on Contis 06 and Contis 01 and above. These regulations shall be cited as regulations governing the conditions of service for staff on Contis 06, then Contis 01 and above. That is senior staff. These regulations are not be regarded or amended except as otherwise directed by the governing council of the university. That is to show that the governing council have a role to play when it comes to regulations. Then responsibility for discipline. The council and the vice chancellor shall have responsibility for the discipline of staff on Contis 06 or Contis 01 and above in the university by adhering strictly to the guidelines stipulated in section 15 of the Federal University of Technology Act, chapter 1223, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004. Then, recommendation of disciplinary action shall normally be implemented by the registrar in line with the regulations. That is, the registrar has a role to play in respect of that. Then, we have disciplinary measures. We have school, department, advice and warning, reprimand, deferment of increment, withholding of increment, suspension, reduction in rank, compulsory leave, making good the loss or damage of university property, interdiction, termination, then dismissal. Then what is misconduct? Misconduct consists of willful acts of omission which prejudices the proper administration of the university in which an officer is employed, or prejudices the order and discipline of the university, which brings the service into disrepute, including without prejudice to the generality of the foregoing. We have conviction on a criminal charge, absence from duty without leave, disobedience, negligence, suppression of records, serious financial embarrassment, unauthorized disclosure of official information, corruption, embezzlement, unruly behavior, membership of secret court, contravention of financial regulations, then dishonesty, drunkenness, insubordination, falsification of records, failure to keep records, use of foul language, loitering, dereliction of duty, sleeping on duty. The employer or an organization determines what amounts to misconduct. The test is subjective. And if I can explain on that, then when you talk about misconduct, misconduct is what the employer says is misconduct. If you are walking about and eating maize, the employer can say it is a misconduct, and so be it. So misconduct is a subjective kind of situation. Anything the employer says is misconduct is misconduct. Then Extant Act of the Federal University of Technology, Akure, vis-a-vis removal and discipline of academic, administrative and professional staff under the Act. Public universities are products of legislation by an act of parliament. The act is cited as Federal University of Technology Act, chapter 523, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004. Section 15, subsection 1 provides as follows. If it appears to the council that there are reasons for believing that any person employed as a member of the academic, administrative, or professional staff of the university, other than the vice chancellor, should be removed from his office or employment on the ground of misconduct or of inability to perform the functions of his office or employment, the council shall give notice of those reasons to the person, that the council must give notice to that person, afford him an opportunity of making representations in person on the matter to the council, And if you so request, or any 3 members of the council so request, within the period of 1 month, beginning with the date of the notice, make arrangements for a joint committee of the council and the Senate to investigate the matter and to report on it to the council. And B, for the person in question to be afforded an opportunity of appearing before and being heard by the investigating committee with respect to the matter. And if the council, after considering the report of the investigating committee, is satisfied that the person in question should be removed, as aforesaid, the council may so remove him by an instrument in writing signed on the directions of the council. So that is the procedural aspect of it. That is the procedure. That is, you give notice of those reasons to the person and afford him an opportunity. That is what we call fair hearing. That is, you afford him an opportunity to make representation. And those procedures must be followed. If it is not followed, it has its own consequence. And we are going to talk about it later. Then the discipline stage. The process has 2 stages. The investigation stage. This is the most important part of the discipline process. Cases on discipline are often won or lost based upon the amount of effort put into the investigation. At this stage, the management should gather facts and evidence to confirm what took place. This evidence might include witness statements, a report from security officials, documentary evidence, interviewing witnesses to the incident, and most important of all, interviewing the employee involved in the misconduct. The employee interview is the key to the investigation, and it should play a major role in management's decision to issue of discipline. Even when there is overwhelming evidence of an employee's guilt, it is still essential to interview the employee. An employee involved in a misconduct should be provided an opportunity to explain himself. The disciplinary stage, that's the second stage. The first one is investigation. Then this disciplinary stage. Once management has heard the employee's explanation in the interview, verified the facts and gathered all the evidence, the decision to discipline can be made. Ideally, the decision to discipline can be made after discussions with other people in management. The legal unit of the organization must be carried along for a proper guidance and procedural exigencies in accordance with university regulations and enabling act. An important factor that needs to be examined prior to issuing any discipline is the quality of the evidence. Management needs to be able to prove its case for discipline. The accepted standard for proving guilt in labor law is based upon a balance of probabilities. This is a lower standard than beyond a reasonable doubt. Beyond reasonable doubt is used in criminal cases, which is used in criminal law. If on a balance of probabilities, management feels that the employee has been involved in a misconduct, and discipline is certainly an option, if the evidence is weak, management should not pursue discipline. If the evidence is weak, management should not pursue discipline. But this is not often the case. Another factor to look at is the principle of progressive discipline. Under this principle, discipline is administered in progressive stages. Progressive discipline means that management first tries to resolve the problem without imposing a severe penalty, such as a long suspension or termination. However, if the employee's behavior is unsatisfactory, then the penalty is increased to the final stage of actual termination. It should be noted that some misconducts are so severe that progressive discipline need not be followed. Serious misconduct such as theft, fighting, conducting illegal activity, etc. can lead to termination. Then just cause and its effects on discipline. In reviewing whether or not management was correct in its choice to discipline, the following factors must be taken into account by management when deciding to use discipline. This is very, very important and very crucial to employers and those in the registry in respect of any matter that has to do with discipline. The first one, did the employee clearly understand the role or policy that was violated? You must be able to determine that. That is, for example, were the work rules or policy provided to the employee prior to the violation, that is, were the work rules or policy provided, that is the rules that the worker is going to follow, did you actually give it to the worker before starting the work? It is management's responsibility to prove that the employee knows the rule or policy. If that is in place, then the employer is now justified. Then the second one, was the role or policy consistently and fairly enforced by management? That is, for example, did management have a history of ignoring the departmental policy but single out an employee for discipline anyway? That is, when you select and say, this one untouchable, this one let us apply the rule, it will cause problem. That is, you are favoring some people and than the others, than the other people. Then did the employee know that violating the rule or policy could lead to discipline? You must be able to establish that one too. That did the employee know? Then the seriousness of the offense in terms of violating rule of conduct of an organization and obligations. For example, being a few minutes late for a meeting will not be viewed as being serious an offense, as striking another employee or stealing university property. Then the long service of the employee is always put into consideration, that this person has been in the service for long. Then the previous good or bad work record of the employee, then you look at it that he has been doing good in the past, why now? Or if he has been doing bad, he has been like that in the past, so he cannot change. You look at all those ones to now, before you can impose a punishment or sanction. Then you look at the issue of provocation. Was the employee pushed into acting rudely or violently as a result of management action or inaction? This is a very common defense for employees involved in subordination. And I want to mention something about this. When a worker is tensed up, he needs materials to work, they are not available. He needs A4 paper, they are not available. He will be provoked. He will be rude. By the time you tell him to work, there are no facilities, the things are not available. How do you want me to kill myself? So that is very important for you to now know whether it was provocation and what could have caused that provocation. Is it the atmosphere? Is it the environment? You must be able to determine what would have caused the provocation. But most essentially, it is usually when the tools are not available. Maybe he wants to photocopy some documents, the photocopier is not good, and he has to do it and bring it to a meeting. He will be provoked as a human being. He will not be in his senses, and to that extent, he can be rude to any officer. So that is one thing that must be looked into, because it's common in practice that when a worker wants to work, he doesn't have enough facilities and this, it can be provoked. Then did the employee admit to the misconduct and apologize for the behavior? In general, discipline should be restricted to the issuing of letters of warning, letters of suspension, or at worst, actual termination. Employers should refrain from disciplining employees by such methods as altering work schedules. That is, when you want to discipline, and you say, yes, I won't allow you to do the job again, then you take it to another place. That is not advisable. Then assigning employee to do unpleasant work or denying vacation requests. That even say you won't go on vacation because of this or that. You should not victimize. Then coming to discipline of students now. Who is a student? A student is a person engaged in a course of study in a college or university, or better still, a person who studies a particular academic subject. Section 17 of FUTA makes provision for the discipline of students as follows. So, section 17 subsection 1. Subject to the provisions of this section, where it appears to the Vice Chancellor that any student of the university has been guilty of misconduct, the Vice Chancellor may, without prejudice to any other disciplinary powers conferred on him by statute or regulation, direct that the student shall not, during such period as may be specified in the direction, participate in such activities of the university, or make use of such facilities of the university as may be so specified, or B, that the activities of the student shall, during such period as may be specified in the direction, be restricted in such manner as may be so specified, or C, that the student be rusticated for such period as may be specified in the direction, or D, that the student be expelled from the university. Where a direction is given under subsection 1, subsection C or D of this section in respect of any student, that student may, within this prescribed period and in prescribed manner, appeal to the council And where such an appeal is brought, the council shall, after causing such inquiry to be made in the matter as the council considers just, either confirm or set aside the direction or modify it in such manner as the council thinks fit. So you can see that that in respect of students too, it goes to council. The council have the overall adjudication in respect of that. Then 3, the fact that an appeal from a direction is brought in pursuance of subsection 2 of this section shall not affect the operation of the direction while the appeal is pending. Subsection 4, the Vice Chancellor may delegate his powers under this section to a disciplinary board consisting of such members of the university as he may nominate. That is in respect of VC and the discipline of students. Then nothing in this section shall be construed as preventing the restriction or termination of a student's activities at the university otherwise than on the ground of misconduct. That is, you can go ahead in respect of other grounds apart from misconduct. Then Students' Handbook of Information 2019. The Federal University of Technology Akure has in place Students' Handbook of Information for 2019. The handbook contains the following provisions inter alia: matriculation oath, antisocial activities in the halls of residence, courtesy and civility in dealing with all maids and officials, then procedures or regulations for hearing grievances and seeking solutions, regulations and demonstrations, misconduct on campus, off-campus student behavior stroke misconduct, examination regulations and disciplinary actions, misconduct before examinations, misconduct during examinations, misconduct after examinations. Those are things that we have. Then I want to go to judicial pronouncement of disciplinary procedure touching and concerning both staff and students. The courts always make pronouncements on strict adherence to regulations and the provisions of the Act of the universities. In the case of University of Nigeria Teaching Hospital Management Board versus Noli, that is 1994, the plaintiff in this case was dismissed for misconduct in the sense that she administered chloroquine injection on some children consistently, and deaths of children were recorded. She was made to face panel of inquiry and she admitted that she was negligent. The plaintiff was dismissed from the services of the university on ground of misconduct. Paragraph 4 of Exhibit A, which was tendered by the plaintiff, says that the plaintiff's appointment shall be subject to the hospital's condition of service as well as to the terms and conditions laid down by the board from time to time, and such other conditions as are applicable to employees of the board. Ogundare JSC of blessed memory held as follows: where a statutory requirement for exercise of a legal authorities is laid down, it is expected that the public body invested with the authority would follow the requirements to the details. The non-observance in the process of reaching its decision renders the decision itself a nullity. The effect is that the respondent remains on the employment of the appellant. So in that case, the procedure of the university, that is what was contained in that their condition of service, that it was tendered by the plaintiff, says that the plaintiff's appointment shall be subject to the hospital's condition of service as well as to the terms and conditions laid down by the board from time to time, and such other conditions as are applicable to employees of the board. So the court looked at that and now saw that they didn't follow it, and the court said it was a nullity. Even though in that case the woman admitted that I was negligent, but the court looked at the procedure that it was not followed, and that was why Ogundare nullified it and said it was not followed, despite the fact that he admitted that I was guilty of misconduct. But when it got to court, the court looked at the procedure to be followed, that despite the fact that he admitted, they ought to set up investigation panel and disciplinary panel before making that pronouncement. And that was why the court reversed it and said it was a nullity. In the case of Dr. Raji versus University of Ilorin 2008, the University of Ilorin contended that Dr. Raji consented to a wrong procedure in handling his case, and therefore he could not turn around to complain after consenting to a wrong procedure. The learned judge observes as follows: where the terms of employment are governed by laws, rules, and regulations, that is having statutory flavor, the employee's employment cannot be terminated except in accordance with such rules and regulations. Section 15 of the University of Ilorin Act confers on the university staff special status over and above normal contractual relationship of master and servant. Consequently, the only way to terminate such a contract of service with statutory flavor is to adhere strictly to the procedure laid down in the statute, that is, University of Ilorin Act. In the case of Olori Magage versus University of Benin, 1977, the plaintiff, a student and also the then president of the Students' Union at the University of Benin, was disciplined by the Provisional Council, acting on a report of a committee of inquiry into the university students' crisis. Under Section 17 of the University of Benin Act, the power to discipline students was vested in the Vice Chancellor with power of appeal to the University Council. However, since the Vice Chancellor was personally affected in the case, he decided to refer the incident to a committee of inquiry, which recommended his findings to the Provisional Council. The plaintiff, challenging this exercise of power by council, held that the Vice Chancellor had no power under university law to delegate his disciplinary powers to a committee, and that the power so far exercised should be declared ultra vires and void. The chief judge in the case, Ovie Whiskey, set aside the actions taken against the plaintiff and held that if the law reserved the exercise of a power to a body and another body is made to exercise it, that exercise is null and void. In the case of Ms. Olajobi Akintemi versus Professor Owume Chili, Vice Chancellor, University of Ife, 1986, as a result of a report by the President of the Law Society of the University of Ife alleging widespread examination leakages and malpractices in the law faculty sessional examination, the Vice Chancellor, Professor Owume Chili, set up a panel headed by Professor Adegbola to conduct discrete investigations into the allegations, the causes, and make recommendations. Those who testified before the panel included Akintemi and others, who, as a result of the report of the panel, were suspended from the university for the remainder of the 1980-81 session. The students applied to the court for an injunction to quash the suspension. It was contended that the Vice Chancellor did not communicate to the students charges or complaints against them before suspending them. The court held that the Vice Chancellor, having failed to communicate to the applicants charges or complaints against them, to which they were to defend themselves before the investigation panel and before the decision to suspend them was taken, breached the rule of natural justice of fair hearing. Hence, the order of suspension was quashed. The students were reinstated. In the case of Garba and others versus University of Maiduguri, the students, applicants, were alleged to have on the 2nd February 1983 participated in a student demonstration in the university. There was destruction of property, looting, and indecent assault. The Deputy Vice Chancellor was a victim of the rampage since his house was burnt. On the 9th February 1983, the Vice Chancellor set up various investigation panels to probe the alleged student rampage. One of such panels was the disciplinary committee, headed by the Deputy Vice Chancellor. The panel, during investigations, called 104 witnesses, including students, for interview. At the end of the investigation, several students, including Garba and others, were expelled. Garba and others brought an action in the law court. The main ground of the action was that they were not afforded any right of fair hearing, since they did not know the evidence given against them. The matter went from Maiduguri High Court to Court of Appeal and lastly to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court held as follows. By virtue of Section 33 subsection 1 subsection 4 of the 1979 Nigerian Constitution, only a court of law or a judicial tribunal is competent to hear and determine a criminal charge against the students of a university, and that neither the Vice Chancellor nor any investigating panel set up by him has any competence in the law to do so. That since the chairman of the disciplinary panel which tried the appellants was the Deputy Vice Chancellor of the university and was a victim of the rampage, the necessary inference was that there was a likelihood of bias, since the Deputy Vice Chancellor was just a witness and a judge all at the same time. That the students were not accorded fair hearing, that they did not know the allegations against them, what evidence was given in support of such allegations, what statements have been made concerning those allegations, that they did not have fair opportunity to correct and contradict such evidence finally. The panel investigating the allegation against them must not receive evidence behind their back. The Supreme Court set aside the expulsion order and reinstated the students. Then greater productivity. What is productivity? A general definition is that productivity is the relationship between the output generated by a production or service system and the input provided to create this output. This productivity is defined as the efficient use of resources, labor, capital, land, materials, energy, information, etc. in the production of various goods and services. Greater productivity means accomplishing more with the same amount and resources, or achieving higher output in terms of volume and quality for the same input. The concept of productivity is also increasingly linked with quality of output, input, and the process itself. An element of key importance is the quality of the workforce, its management, and its working conditions. And it has been generally recognized that greater productivity and improving quality of working life do tend to go hand in hand. Attitudes towards work and achievement may be improved through employees' participation in planning goals, implementing processes, and through sharing productivity gains. Generally speaking, productivity could be considered as a comprehensive measure of how organizations satisfy the following criteria: objectives, the degree to which they are achieved; efficiency, how effectively resources are used to generate useful output; effectiveness, what is achieved compared with what is possible; comparability, how productivity performance is recorded over time. The greater productivity of any university, from my own point of view, dovetails into the mission and vision statement of each university. For example, the mission, policies, and regulations and guiding values of Redeemers University is couched as follows: to continuously impact the society through commitment to excellence in education, research, creativity, innovation, entrepreneurship, and raising global leaders as change agents imbued with God-fearing attributes. Then guiding values is as follows: to achieve our mission, we are guided by the following core values as our life pie: loyalty to the vision, mission, and communities covenant of the university; integrity in all our conduct and dealings; faithfulness to God, humanity, and the ideals of the university; excellence is all our deliverables to ensure the highest qualities; passion and commitment of selfless and sacrificial service; then innovation and creativity to provide solutions to societal needs; entrepreneurship, ecosystem that fosters business development, skills, and self-reliance. Quality policy statement: Redeemers University is committed to service delivery that exceeds the highest standards. We develop and maintain a highly skilled professional workforce that provides transformational leadership and improves on world quality process. Your attitude determines your altitude. The above, in my view, are roadmaps to greater and higher productivity if they are religiously followed and actualized. Thank you for your rapt attention.